Welcome back to Bisrat for Africa. My name is Luandi Sotlogweni. Today we're going to be looking at the dark side of African spirituality. A lot of the times people will like to highlight the negatives that are in Christianity. And while I think it's important for us to be honest about the things that have been done in the name of Christianity in the past by people who have professed to be Christian, but it's also important when we are engaging in discussions like this to also highlight that there is no religious system that is immune to abuses. And so today we're going to be highlighting some of the abuses that are done in the name of African spirituality. And I want you guys to understand that we're not doing this in order to demonize African spirituality or to sort of talk people down. But it's important because we still have people in our comment section who still come and almost paint a perfect pre colonial picture of Africa, saying, before the missionaries came, we were perfect. We had all these things. We loved each other. And of course, nothing could be further from the truth because today we're going to be highlighting things that are principles within African spirituality that have been practiced for centuries by Africans. And these things have contributed to things like human trafficking. They've also contributed to things like hate between Africans. And for me, one of the things that makes me a bit surprised about some of these principles is that they seem to generally work only on Africans. Like I asked myself during, the colonial era, were these things not working? I know there was a big battle here in the Eastern Cape, in the place we call Imakanda, and it's Makanda because there was a prophet that actually told the Xhosa nation that if they go there, he's going to put all these multi things, and the bullets are not going to penetrate them. And they went to war, but they still lost the battle. And we see this even in modern times, like in our sports, in soccer, you'll see Kaiser Chiefs when they're playing Orlando Pirates or whatever. People will go and put muti there by the poles and so on. And people believe, obviously, that if they do all of these things, then they're going to win the game. But they still lose the games. Like it was a problem even with Bafana, where people were supposed to wash their boots in umuti and all these things, but they still lost. So not only do these things sort of affect, I guess, us in a negative sense, but they also affect our mindset in terms of not focusing on working hard, but actually trying to get a shortcut in life. Where if I want to get a job, I don't want to get a job because of my credentials. I want to get a job because I went to that Sangoma and that Sangoma is powerful and therefore he's going to help me get that job. And so trying to manipulate things, really not very helpful to Africans. So today we're going to be looking at a video from DJ Sbu, an interview that is done with Ugogo Skoteni. Now, DJ Sbu, I need to highlight this, that he is one of the people that usually say that he's left Christianity because of the abuses of Christianity. But yet he still sits and interviews people who tell him about the abuses in African spirituality. And mind you, these abuses are abuses against African people. But for some reason, he doesn't see that as something that should cause him to reject African spirituality. So let's check it out, and then we'll give some commentary as we're watching the video.
And how do you handle I can imagine you helped so many people. How are you able to handle all this baggage that comes from all these different strangers?
Honestly speaking, I break down and cry. It's a lot. People go through a lot. To such an extent, we see even our loved ones, we do something to them. Yazi, out of 100%, yabantu engisebenza ngayo, 70% efikayo. It's all about witchcraft. Ufuna ukwenza into so emntwini, ufuna ukudlisa ubani, ufuna ufaka ubani isichitho. It's all that. 30% yabo yilo muntu othi gogo kuyabheda ngifuna umsebenzi, ngifuna izinto eziso. The rest, it's all bad things. So I can't anymore. I don't want to do this anymore because.
And what I like about Ugogo Skoteni, and I really appreciate that she's not trying to paint this perfect picture like some of the people who come on our comment section and some of the people who promote African spirituality. She's telling you 70% of the people who come to them for help are not looking for help to uplift their own lives. They're going there to destroy somebody else's life. And because there are principles in African spirituality that can be manipulated for the destruction of people, and most of the time it's the destruction of Black people, I like the fact that Ugogo Skoteni is willing to actually bring this information out and tell it as it is.
Kuyabheda man. Abantu they don't want impumelelo. They just want to destroy each other. I can't anymore. Athi but then akusuwe obafostayo bayayizela ngithi but it's too much. Nangicounta namhlanje abantu abafikile, abantu abafuna ukubulala, abantu abafuna lokho, abantu uyi-one nje umuntu ofika ufuna umsebenzi. Sime kuphi nje? You understand? Hence ngithi izangoma zikhona, izangoma ziyasebenza, izangoma ziyalapha, but le enzeka manje ayisekho.
How do you handle abantu abaza ngobubi abafuna ukuyowenza or abafuna ukuyokwenza abanye abantu ububi?
To be honest with you, more fear give me, I give you what you want. And I tell you the consequences. Kufana nokuthwala. You understand? I tell you ukuthi uma uzothwala, these are the consequences. Kunabantu abanganandaba. Umuntu umtshela ukuthi kuyoshona abantwana bakho nabomama athi anginandaba. And I want money. I don't care. I want money. Yomthini. Sesenendaba lo muntu ne-life wabantu around. Ufuna i-flash life, akanandaba. Kunomunye ozothi athi ngifuna ukuthwala umtshela ukuthi kuyoshona umfazi wakho athi loyo angafana kusasa. Athi ngifuna imali. So mina I help you the way ufuna ngikusize ngakhona, but mina I know where I stand. Mina I play by the book. I'll do what my ancestors want me to do. So ngizakutshela kona ukuthi it's difficult. It's not right. It's like this anandaba.
Yini ukuthwala?
Ukuthwala, it's wanting extra powers, more money. You'll be given a certain iskupu or an animal or whatever. Uthi ithathe uyoyihlaba, and be careful because mabakunikeza island but uyoslaba.
I also just want to highlight something here is that what you're finding a lot in terms of consultation, people go to Sangoma not because they want some form of soul transformation. Like people don't go to Isangoma. I guess sometimes they might go there because they have problems, maybe that needs a bit of counseling. But from what she's saying, people are going there for material things. So in other words, I want a job, I want power, I want this. It's not it's not something that you go to in order for you as an individual to grow, become better. And this is what I highlighted in some of my videos. It's yeah, you can get help to get a job, but what about your heart? I go to Isangoma to help me ukudlisa umuntu. But am I going to get some form of confrontation that tells me that it's wrong, that I need to fix my heart? And so these are some of the things that people need to be aware of is, yeah, maybe we hold these people at high esteem, and it's almost like it's glorified to be Sangoma. Everybody wants to be Sangoma. But at the same time, if it was a pastor that was doing all these things, if a pastor said, I'll give you what you want. If you come to church and you want to kill your wife, I'll help you. That'll be in the front pages. But, because we're in a day and age where if something is Christian, automatically it's bad. But if it's African spirituality, we can overlook it. So, and I think if we're going to have fair discussions, these things also need to be brought to light so that people can see that if you are rejecting Christianity because of colonialism, slavery, but you've got to also be fair when you judge African spirituality.
You go easy ngithi hayi hlaba inkomo uzothola i-1 million. 1 million uba happy. After a year, the very same date ohlabe ngayo inkomo ngizokutshela ukuthi hlaba into eso futhi. Akuna stress, uhappy, uyaflasha imoto, yini uright wena. The very same date again, the following year sengitshela ukuthi bayisesifuna umuntu. These are the things we don't talk about. These are the things we don't tell people.
So that's what they would call in Islungu as sacrifice, ne?
Yes.
All right, it's human sacrifice. I always say this in this channel, and I'm glad somebody who's in the practice is saying it, because when we say it, we're colonized and so on. But for me also, somebody can go to Isangoma saying I need a job or something, like something small. So the sacrifice is smaller, it's a goat. But it's still the same thing. It's a materialistic thing that you're after anyway. And so the sacrifice is smaller. And I think the sacrifice gets bigger, the more material possession that you want. But at the end of the day, it's something that is offering you material possession. And it's not something that's transforming your life and saying, become a better person, become more godly, become more loving towards your wife, work hard to achieve the things that you can achieve in life. No, it's a shortcut. It's hard. It's almost like you're playing some form of lottery and so on. And so it does affect our mindset as well. to want things instantly. It's something that it's almost embedded in our culture where we want shortcuts. We don't want to struggle, work hard, and also try and achieve things on our own.
Never ever go to a sangoma azokutshela ukuthi hlaba ini ukuze ube nemali. At the end of the day izodinga igazi lomuntu lento oyihlabelayo. So kuneyigubhu.
Yini isigubhu?
Isigubhu isigubhu nje.
I once ngiyaxolisa ukudisturb. I once interviewed Dr. Kehlelezi.
Yes, I know him.
Ngimbuza ngithi yini isigubhu? Ungichazele ngendlela yakhe, and then I was even shocked. Bekakhuluma nangama price even all the way up to millions.
Yes.
Shocked it. What?
Uyazenza zabo 6 million.
Yes, yini isigubhu? Asiqale lapho, yini isigubhu?
Isigubhu into ozoyikhulumisa uyinikeza igama uyitshela ukuthi hambe uyosebenza. Isigubhu into ekusebenzelayo ukuze uthole le mali le oyifunayo. But nangaphakathi kunemithi efakiwe. Kunezigubhu ezenziwa ngegazi, kunezigubhu ezenziwa ngemithi. Remember, umuthi uyaphefumula, umuthi uyakhuluma. Umuthi obulalayo noma ungawubeka nje la, ngithi khotha la, uzokhotha ngeke uzofe. But if ngikhulumisile ukuthi wena mele ubulale, uzokubulala mase ukhotha. Umuthi awusebenzi ungakhulumisanga. Uyafutha, uyakhuluma, umuthi uyalalela. Umuthi ufana namaflower, ngisho bona amaflower a connector nawe.
Yes.
Mawuloko umnethelisela
Because amaflower ayaphila.
Thank you. Umuthi uyaphila.
Are you serious?
I'm telling you, umuthi uyaphefumula. Kunesihlahla uthi mawusikapa esomuthi siphuma igazi. Kunesihlahla esikhalayo. Umuthi uyakhuluma, umuthi umuntu. That's why ngithi ngabeka umuthi okubulala la, ngithi khotha la, ungafi. Ngikhothe nami ngingafi. But ngokhulumise lo muthi mangukhanda ngithi wena uzoba umuthi obulala. Lo njengoba khotha la, ngifuna afi, then uyafa.
And maybe at this stage, I think it's important for us to sort of think about this now in terms of comparative religion. We always say, and one of the church fathers called Augustine, he's one of my heroes, one of the most prominent Christian leaders to ever live. And he once made a statement to say that you cannot judge a philosophy by its abuses. And so what he was trying to say is that when you want to judge a philosophy, go to the principles. Don't go to the abuses. Don't go to the distortions, but go to the principles. And so you got to ask yourself the question, are these principles that she's talking about here, or are these abuses? If you can say to something like umoti, to say it must kill somebody, are you manipulating? Are you using a principle that can cause harm to somebody? Is that a principle that you are using there? Or are you distorting something that's maybe not supposed to be like that? It's like somebody said in our comment section, he said, the missionaries came preaching, love your neighbor, but they hated their neighbors. You see, the missionaries rejected the principle. And so my question, is this a principle or is this a distortion? I want you guys in the comment section to tell me what you think.
Nguzo mention ama-boys. Yini ama-boys now? Ngicela ukwabuza futhi. Because we want to know these things.
Yes, ama-boys abafana abancane uTikolosho.
Oh, uTikolosho. Yini uTikolosho for abangazi?
uTikolosho omunye ukhandwa ngemikhovu. Yabona lento ukuthi umuntu makashonile animbheke ekhaya, it's very wrong. Umuntu umbheke everything. Umuntu mayeshonile mbhekeni ilimi kuqala ukuthi lisesekhona na. Liyakhathwa ene izangoma eziningi zisebenzisana nabantu basemoshari. Because sizoqala ukuthi ukhathe lelo limi usilethene lona. Isangoma manje sibiza ukuthi sizosebenza isidumbu. Ibani khona nibona ukuthi wenzani umuntu wenu. Because ngasebenza isidumbu to my advantage ukuthi ngiyamthatha lo muntu ngiyomthebula uyongisebenzela.
Yini ukuthwebula?
Ukuthebula.
Before she gets into Uktwebula, this is very important because I once watched a documentary where they were actually saying that people go dig up people's bodies in order to make umuti, or they'll go to the mortuary and try and steal people, basically using human body parts to actually make umuti. And even in some places like in Uganda, there's big things there where witchcraft is actually banned, like it's illegal, because people kidnap little children and actually want to make umuti, using their bodies and so on. So this is why we're saying this is a dark side of African spirituality. Not saying that everything that's African spirituality is bad. I'm not trying to make that argument today. But what I'm trying to point out that there's a very, very dark side, and people always want to highlight the problems in other people's beliefs and so on. But we want them to also make a defense for African spirituality when people point out these things that are present there. We want people to make a defense the same way that we make a defense for the Christian faith.
Please
No,
still
it's
explaining,
fine.
sorry.
No, it's
Asingene
okay.
ukuthwebula after
Yes.
sesebhizi ngama-boys, sorry.
So ama-boys ngiyakuthatha ngiphendula umkhovu before ushona, ngikubulala kuqala mina. Have you noticed ukuthi kunabantu abazokutshela ukuthi namhlanje ngathi ngiphila lokugcina? Umuntu nje njalo makashona kune-hint-nyana nje, kunesayininyana. Umunye asashaya manje yazi khona into ayishilo.
Khona into ayishilo.
Khona into ayishilo, yes.
Kodwa ukufa kwakhe ngathi kade sekumbiza.
Ngathi, yes.
Uthe wathi.
Yes. So kuyenzeka ukuthi sikubulale kuqala spiritually. Lento ukuthi uzophupha ngathi bakugwazile or ngiyagwaza or whatever. 2 days after usuyashona. Mina ispirit sakho sengisebenzile kuqala. Uma bayokungcwaba wena kini bangcwaba nje umzimba nje. Then yiko izinto esisithena into abotikoloshi lezo ziyahamba ziyosebenza ebusuku.
And then ukuthi ziyosebenza, it's either zoyenza ububi or ukuhle.
Akukho kuhle etikoloshini.
Oh.
Akukho, it's an evil spirit. Akukho kuhle. Yini ukuhla? Why mele ngikubulale kuze kube intenhle? Ayikho intenhle. Ngiyakubulala ukuthi uhambe uyongisebenzela manje ngiyakuthuma ukuthi uyongenzela into eso.
So ifamily yakhe icabanga ukuthi ushonile.
Yes.
Kanti usaphila as utikoloshi, as a spirit.
Yes, and abotikoloshi ngisho abantu vele abadethi because awugezi. And lezi zinto zenzayo imithi ngiyaqoba njalo.
Now, whether you believe Utikolosh exists or not, but we still, are making the point that this is the dark side of African spirituality.
Because you need to be strong la uyakhona.
Are you saying lo muntu lo obaye bamngcwaba uyaphila physically? It's a body like this.
Yes. Kunabantu uthi uyadriver endleleni umlifte ugcina semotweni but azange umehlise. Mawuthi uyabheka kasekho. Because sebasebenzisa such people. When we say to you, fetch abantu endleleni, your spirits do so. Because siya endleleni sithathe ama-spirits wabantu. Kuthi abuya azosebenzela. It is very important because silahlisa into sethu. Umuntu wayelandwa la ashone khona. Alandwe ngesihlahla afake endlini. Anibalandi manje. Because some accidents, because we need more blood. Asiyeke nama-Illuminati. Let's speak facts. Izinto ezenziwa izangoma. Siyeke Illuminati nje izosicaka. Asikhulume ngento esizenzayo thina.
So yena umsebenzi wakhe ukuthi ayenzele somebody else imali.
Yes. Body parts. Make sure ukuthi you get all the body parts makuthiwa umuntu ufike wakhathwa wenzani. Kunabantu abahlala babanjwa ngama-body parts thiwa isangoma sifuna into eso. Ziyenzani izangoma ngama-body parts? Yile sithwalo leso ufike wena uthi uzofuna isithwalo ngishoda nge-body part eso. Especially ama-body parts wey'ngane. Hence you see rate yengane ikhuphuka because they are innocent angithi. Most
and also
versions
child trafficking and all of that.
Yes, because we need these things.
My
They
goodness.
work. Siyabadinga because ama-virgin aba-exchanganga ama-spirits.
It's a very dark side of African
Kunokuthi ubaba
spirituality,
endlini
guys.
abe frustrated ubone sekadubula wonke umuntu ekhaya, especially ingane. How could you kill your own kids? It's spirits because sifuna these souls. As a person, you need to take care of yourself mentally, more importantly, spiritually, because your spirituality sakho sihambiselana ne-mental state yakho. Zihambiselana, ayikho engahambi one. Spiritually, when you are connected to your ancestors, mentally you become awake and you become updated all the time. Times change, times evolve. Kunezinto ezintsha ezenzakalayo. Into engikhuluma manje uthola ukuthi isangoma samandulo bengasikhulumi but ibizi yenza ngenye indlela. We find ways of witchcraft all the time. There's something new all the time.
And then other people would call it witchcraft.
Thank you.
It is
Kanti okunye
witchcraft.
kwako kuyenziwa abantu who are actually even izangoma.
Yes.
But who actually can do it for good.
Yes, they can do it for good.
But
And
people want it done for bad.
yes. So the problem about
Absolutely.
Tina,
I think for me, that's where I want to end it, especially for someone like DJ Sbu, says he left Christianity because Christianity was used to harm his people, to destroy his people. Therefore, he can no longer be a Christian. But for me, it just seems like something just lit up in his head that even these people who are so-called Sangoma, we are generally told that if it's a Sangoma, you're the good person, and then Umtagat is the bad person. But now Ugogos Koten is saying, no, Sangoma are able to use, whatever powers they have, either for good or for evil. So it's still the same person. And I always say that if bebengekho abathakathi, there wouldn't be a need for isangoma, because isangoma basically cures what umthakathi does. But what you find a lot of the times is that the same person who is isangoma sometimes can decide to do evil things, and then another sangoma has to fix that, by giving you umuthi okanye amqinise or whatever it is that they would do. But at the same time, at the end of the day, to me, it looks like it's one person, but then this person is able to either do good or to do evil. So umthakathi, nobody gets trained to be umthakathi. Everybody gets trained to be sangoma, but then within isangoma, obviously some people decide to do all these evil things, but it's still and we can make a similar point with Christianity. We can say, even with Christians, some Christians say they're Christians, but actually, they're pretending, or they're just using Christianity for their own advantage, and they're using Christianity to abuse other people. It happens all the time. And so for me, the point of this video is not to demonize or speak badly about African spirituality, but we wanted to actually practically demonstrate and get you guys to hear from somebody who's a practitioner, to say, actually, it's not umthakathi, it's Zangoma that are doing all these things in the name of African spirituality, abusing people, causing human trafficking, stealing people's bodies, people getting to sacrifice their family members in order to appease these spirits and so on. And so that's the dark side of African spirituality. But if you guys enjoyed this video, I want you in the comment section to tell me, do you guys think that these are principles that are being used here, or are these distortions, as we always highlight in Christianity? We'll see you guys in the next video.